Hey everybody, this is Nate with Nonessential Media. Thanks for tuning into this episode of We the Fandom. Before we get started, first of all, I just want to say happy holidays to everyone. Hope you're having a great holiday season. And secondly, just an advisory, this is an unscripted show. While we try to keep it on topics that are safe for work and safe to be around kids, things happen, words get slipped in, so just a heads up. But I hope you enjoy the episode, and we'll be seeing you next week. Goodbye. Back to another episode of We the Fandom. This should be episode 5. With me today, as always, is
Cheyenne.
Today we're and I'm Nate. You probably know that by now. If not,
but in case,
yeah, just in case. Hey, you never know. You jumped in on episode 5. That's cool. Welcome. This is a podcast where we talk about all things nerdy and awesome and fun.
Whoa!
And we are talking about space! I really wanted to finish it off with Ghost, but I didn't want to confuse anybody listening. We're talking about space. Because what sci-fi fandom wouldn't be complete without some space travel in it?
It is the final frontier.
It is. It is. Tell me more about that, Miss Kirk.
Oh, just your everyday Trekkie over here. Well, actually, I'm an equal opportunity star person. Like
with the hat, you almost have that Jane vibe going from Firefly.
It is
I'm pretty sure when I opened the door and said shiny.
My dinosaur hat. It's cold today.
I could have worn my that total face covering one as the Cthulhu tentacles.
Oh, those are always fun. Is it like a crocheted one?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, no, I'm Star Wars, Star Trek, Firefly, of course, is my biggest favorite.
I love Firefly.
Yeah.
Huge.
Well,
huge fan of it.
Considering I have both Alan and, my gosh, my brain is blanking on his name. Mal.
Yes. Nathan Fillion.
Nathan, yes. I have both of their autographs on my...
I like it.
On my Firefly. Well, I met Nathan Fillion. He was super cool. But I have both of their signatures on my Firefly.
It's fine to know
cover.
That I'm your second favorite, Nathan. That's fine.
I'm sorry, Nate. And anyways, I always call you Nathaniel, so it's totally different.
It's funny. I swear you just looked down like I was wearing a name tag. I started to panic for a moment. I can't say where I work, but I work in retail, so I'm accustomed to wearing one. Yep. So I get very familiar with people like just staring into my chest as they're like, "Thank you, Nate. You're welcome." Someone who's not wearing a name tag, like I can't do it back.
I'm sorry. We worked together for so long, and I still have mine. I mean, I probably shouldn't. They probably should have taken that away on my last day, but I still have it.
There's so many stories of people who used to work the same place where we do that all have their name tag still. I don't think that was a thing. I think they're just like, whatever.
I know, but most places are supposed to take those away because they're property of the company, technically.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I still have name tags from all the places where I had to wear a name tag.
It was like 3 months ago. I came in with just like a box of box knives.
Uh-huh.
It's not a huge box, but just like a collection of the box knives that I had accidentally taken home and forgot to bring back over years. And it was when we were switching to our new, like, bulkier plastic ones.
Oh, okay.
And so we didn't need all these anymore, so they were disposing of them. So I came in the next day with this big old box of them, and they're just like, "Why?" And I'm like, "Because it was small, I fit in my pocket. I forget about it till I sit down." And I'm like, "Ow, what was that?"
Is it the little metal ones?
Yeah, the little metal
Oh,
ones.
gosh, yes. I'm pretty sure I still have a couple from when I worked there that I ended up taking home with me, and I'm like, this might come in handy. I guess I'll just keep it. Not like my name tag, which will never come in handy. Like, it's one of the ones, it's when we still had to wear the thing behind the name tag.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you still do.
Yeah, I still have that whole setup.
It was funny the other day. I guess I had an extra one of those magnets attached on the back. This isn't anything to do with this episode.
No, it doesn't.
We've been talking for like 5 minutes about our previous retail experience. Whether or not I'm going to cut this one. I might leave it in there just for laughs. But the little magnet backs that go on.
Yes.
I must have had an extra one in my back pocket because I threw one of the name tags that already included one in that pocket. And then later on, when I clocked in, I was about to put one on. I pulled off the magnet and went to put it through my sweater.
And it was still...
And there was already a magnet on it, so it didn't magnetize at all. And then I looked, and then had to pull the second magnet backer off.
Oh my gosh.
And just like...
That's okay.
Huh.
At my most recent place of employment, people would steal your magnet if you left it if you left your name tag laying around. So it's nice to know that there are places where you can have too many magnets.
I'm wondering, I'm like, did I lose a name tag and I just had the magnet in my pocket? How many months have I had this magnet in my back pocket?
That is also a good question, yes.
So, but speaking of good questions, we should probably talk about space. Why we like it in fiction. We should probably we already mentioned a few. We should start with just some of our favorites. We've in the past had an issue straying too close to film and movies.
Right.
So I want to make sure with each of these topics we're taking a moment to talk about any books or anything outside of film that as well as our favorite movies and TV shows that mention or have to do with the topic. But let's go ahead and start with film. Now, I know we've already talked about it in this podcast multiple times. One of my tops on the list is Alien.
Because in space, no one can hear you scream.
But when it comes to space travel and Alien, I think what I really liked about it, when I first saw it as a kid, it was so different than what I was used to seeing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you watch Star Trek and everything is so clean and pristine and beautiful. And then you watch Star Wars and you get a mix of sort of grimy, sort of...
Right, because it's you got both the, lower class, less affluent people, and you got the, the richies who can afford nice things.
But Alien had this just like low-tech, old-school, analog version of space travel that I thought was really cool and interesting. And it made just the environments and the sets seem... so unique and interesting. All the weird angular doors.
Right,
They almost had that like diamond kind of shape.
A little bit,
to it.
yeah.
All the hallways with the pipes and the bits and bobs.
Mm-hmm.
And as a kid, I was just like, yeah, but what does that do? What does that panel sticking out of the wall that she's running past? What does that do? And I love the bit in that movie where it's the two engineers and they're just like bitching about their pay cut and having. I was like, that's the most realistic thing I've ever seen in a movie involving space travel. Just two guys just like, my bonus isn't worth this. Like, why am I doing this?
Yeah, and I feel like with even in Prometheus, they kind of continued that because you had the ship that they arrived on that was high tech, but then you have the engineer ship, which they are far advanced technological wise.
Yeah.
But they still have that darker, I mean, there's not as many angles, but they still have that darkness that...
It almost felt like their ship was made of stone or something.
Yeah. It was like they were in a cave instead of a ship, and that it was really an interesting feel.
Moon. But what are some other films that we love that involve space travel?
Oh, let's see.
I wrote down a few. There's the obvious. There's our Star Treks.
Right.
There's the films. There's our Star Wars movies. There's 2001, Stanley Kubrick.
Oh, yes.
I wrote down both Apollo 13 and Armageddon.
Oh, okay,
Not saying those films are of equal level of quality. They're not. But I enjoy both of those movies. What
was that other one about the Apollo one? The Apollo 18, the found footage style.
Oh, the moon. Oh my god. That movie's so dumb.
It's so terrible, but...
The moon rocks. And then they try to twist it into they brought all those rocks back.
Right.
And I'm like, well, they clearly aren't killing people.
Right? I feel like this would have been a bigger deal considering they gave them to, like, we gave those rocks as, like, to other countries as gifts, and, like, you know that Neil Armstrong and, who was the other one? Oh my It's goodness. Right there at the tip of my, like, it's right there.
Is it Buzz?
Buzz Aldrin, yes. You know they took some of those home, and then...
Oh, heck yeah.
I mean...
And then what, they get assassinated by rock monsters? If they had done that twist in the end... Right? If they were like, oh my god, the moon's got fucking rock monster things on it, and the government's like, bro, bring us some of those, we're going to ship them to the Russians. Like...
That's the real reason why the Cold War ended, guys.
Yeah. Rock monster assassin. Rock monster. Da, na, 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 na.
But along the lines of, like, that found footage style in space, Europa Report. Have you ever seen that one?
I've seen Europa Report, yes.
That one in space was really
much
good.
Much better than Apollo 18.
So much better. So, I mean, yeah, like, that one, I loved that one. I loved how, like, in the end of almost every movie, someone lives, you know, to tell the tale. But in this one, spoiler alert, in case you have not watched it, everyone dies. But it's done in a way that you're constantly guessing what is actually going on, you know? And they've got the people talking, like, you know, oh, we're showing you this footage of what happened, but, you know, we're talking about it also in the present day, like, about, you know, the events. And that was a really nice way of going about it, and I really enjoyed that movie too.
One of mine that I had on here was Pandorum, which was a horror movie. It was set on a spaceship with people who were coming out of hypersleep, only to discover that things are not quite going according to plan. Yes, I enjoyed that one a lot too. A lot of twists and turns, and not at all what you're expecting, especially there at the end. Yeah. That one was a good twist, but I mean was that Randy Quaid who was in that movie? Dennis. It was Dennis Quaid. Yes, it was Dennis Quaid, and then you did a great job in that movie. For a small amount of time. Oh my gosh, I can't think of his name now. The guy who plays Daryl Dixon in The Walking Dead. Oh, Norman Reedus. Yes, I forgot he was in that movie. He was also in it, and Norman Reedus has had a lot of weird, like, bit parts. Yeah, he has, but he makes it work. Yeah, my favorite was when he played, like, the punk kid in Blade 2. Yes, oh my gosh. Looking back on that, I'm like, Norman, what are you doing? Love that guy. Yes, so do I, but yeah. It's so weird. I don't know if you've seen the, like, trailers for that game, Death Stranding, where Norman Reedus plays, like, the main character. I haven't seen, like, the actual trailers, but I've seen some stills from it, and yes, it's super bizarre. it is. I love that dude. I wish him all the success in the world. Couldn't be happiest for it, but, like, personally, every time I see it, I'm like, I don't know if I get into it. It's so weird seeing him. Like... but speaking of another space movie, Pitch Black. Pitch Black? I don't know the sequel to Chronicles of Riddick? Oh, yes. I mean, technically it takes place mostly on a planet, but... Pitch Black I think that was the first one that came out, wasn't it? Because that was the one where they crash landed on the planet. Yes. And they had to learn to work together to fight all the... things that only come out in the dark. Yeah. How convenient that they had a guy who could see really good in the dark. I know, right? Yeah, it's... What fortune. Yeah. Yes, no, I like that movie as well. It's a good movie. The rest of that franchise... I liked Pitch Black the most, of course. Yeah. And then the Chronicles of Riddick wasn't too bad, but then you get to, like, to Riddick, and I'm just like... It's literally, to me, it just felt too much like a rehash of Pitch Black. But I think that's, a lot of people didn't like Chronicles of Riddick, so they tried to, when they did that, bring it back to Pitch Black. Right. And I had to remember so much of Chronicles of Riddick to make the beginning make sense. You do. I was like, is that Carl Urban? Yes, it was Carl Urban. That kind of soured that part for me. And then, the rest of the movie, I was just like, I guess I could just go watch Pitch Black again. Which was better to me, except the dog thing that he adopted in Riddick was super cool. That's right. I remember that. I would totally take one of those. But other than that... We should have an episode on, like, favorite sci-fi, like, pets.
Oh, yes, there we go.
That would be fun.
Would you want a tribble?
No. Let's move on. Do we want to do... we kind of already touched on TVs. Is there anything other than, of course, the Star Trek TV shows, Firefly, that you want to bring up? Just casual nod to Farscape. I haven't watched more than maybe a handful of episodes.
Okay.
But, like, Jim Henson...
There it is.
Whoop, there it is. Note that for myself, please. But Jim Henson puppets.
Oh, yes, okay.
In space. It seems weird. The first time I watched it, I was like, this is weird. But the more I watched it, the more I was like, I'm on board with this.
Oh, Stargate.
Stargate, yes.
All of a sudden you said something and it just, like, popped into my head. Yeah. I love the Stargate series.
I remember the last one they did was the one where they used the Stargate to get onto a ship.
Yes, and it's a ship of the ancients, but it's been out there since basically forever.
I just remember that one had a really downer cliff ending, and then they canceled the show.
I hated that. So at the beginning, I wasn't a big fan because it was so much, even just in terms of like cinematography, it was a darker. But the more I watched it, because I stuck with it, I really ended up enjoying it, and then that was the end, and I was like, what the fuck? Guys, seriously? Where was this going? So...
any other TV shows off the top of your head? If not, we can transition into books, novels, and short stories.
Not off the top of my head that I can think of. The written word. Yes, I love the written word.
Now, I could be totally off base here, but I think in the past we've mentioned we both enjoyed Ender's Game, the novel. I'm completely off, aren't I?
I think so, yes, okay. Because I don't recall reading that.
Recall reading it? Well, I really enjoyed that one. That has a great twist to the story. It's about, a decade after humanity is attacked by an alien species who sort of, marshal together a counteroffensive, and genius level children are being run through drills in order to, to see who amongst them would be best fit in order to be able to lead a counterattack against these bugs and win. Spoiler alert: if you haven't read the book or
seen the movie,
the movie will spoil it. Read the book.
Always.
The book is better. Well, we can argue the always here in a few weeks.
I know.
But the twist is, after rising and becoming the best candidate, Ender is put through a series of final tests.
Right.
Where every other student he's competed against is now working under him. And they run through these simulations that are just daily, to the point near the end it's just constant simulations, and he's having to make sacrifices.
Right.
And so he's thinking he's learning this lesson, and while this is happening, he keeps having these weird dreams, because there's a part in the story beforehand where when they would sleep, they would have instructions broadcasted into their heads, and so it'd be instead of, it would be like a fantasy story where they'd be taught to be more ruthless and things like that. Essentially being conditioned into being these brilliant strategists that they would need to be.
Right.
The twist at the very end is we find out the final simulations weren't simulations at all. His orders were being live streamed out to these armies.
Right.
And so he was actually directing these forces, and so everyone who died in the simulation, all the troops that they lost on both sides were completely real.
Right.
And he essentially has committed genocide by murdering this entire species. Because in the very end, he detonated their home planet. It was a no-win scenario.
Yeah.
The only way to win was to take out the planet,
because at least they destroyed the enemy, sort of thing.
And so it's this great twist of everyone's cheering and celebrating, and he's just horrified upon realizing what he's done.
Right.
And I never read the rest of the sequels, though I've always meant to. Because it gets more into what happens to him now that the war is over, he takes on a role where he now represents this dead species. Because he finds out the weird dreams he was having at the end wasn't part of the lessons anymore.
No.
That was actually the aliens trying to communicate with him.
Yeah.
And then he just, like, nuked them because he didn't understand.
Which, I mean, you know, if you don't understand.
But it was a really good book. It's a less good movie. It wasn't a terrible movie. There's been adaptations of other things that have been far worse. Cough, cough, Will Smith's I Am Legend, cough, cough, cough.
Aragorn.
Yeah, that was bad.
Don't even start with that one.
That one. I'm sure we'll talk about those in a couple weeks.
Oh gosh, yes.
But I thought it was a hugely enjoyable book. Do you have any that jump out at you?
I do. Give me a moment because I am trying to find this book.
I can talk about more because I wrote a lot down. I'm a real big fan of Ray Bradbury's The Martian Chronicles, which was a collection of short stories detailing humans colonizing Mars, and like starting from like their first arrival all the way to the point where like humans are the new Martians, that kind of thing. The old Martians no longer exist. Really great collection of stories. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. I picked it up in high school by complete accident, and after like the first 3 stories, I was like, I'm hooked. This is great. Hitchhiker's Guide, amazing. Oh, yeah. I don't have it anymore, but I used to have like the first paragraph, like printed, and I had it on my wall because it's so, like, such a silly way to describe Earth. And it's a fantastic series. Each book gets more ridiculous and more insane after another, to the point where I had to go back and reread previous books because there were so many twists and turns and the little jokes and little details. I couldn't keep straight how the actual plot had happened anymore. Other good books, Starship Troopers. That one, especially compared to the movie, I didn't realize how deep and philosophical it was going to get about war and this, like, the duties of citizenship and that kind of stuff. So that was very interesting to read. Right. A good counterpoint to that one is The Forever War, which was written in sort of response to Vietnam. But it takes the science fiction framing in order to explore it, where it's talking about how when the soldiers are shipped out, they go into cryosleep and like are sent back. But because of the time difference between how their lives and the years in cryosleep and then like real world time, every time they come back from the world is progressively different and more extreme than how it was before. Right. To the point where like one of the last times the main character returns from deployment, he doesn't even like recognize the people anymore.
Oh gosh.
Like between augmentation and fashion and everything, and just evolution, he's just like, I don't belong. These aren't the humans I knew before. Right.
This isn't the same world I knew.
And then, so I thought actually reading those back to back was really interesting because Starship Troopers has, I wouldn't call it a pro-war. I don't think that's.
No, but they're
too much of a summary. Yeah. But sort of like the role of citizenship and what a citizen should be required, that kind of thing. Right. It's a great counterpoint to the Forever War. Where Forever War's pretty obvious, like, war kind of sucks. Like, right. But probably my favorite science fiction novel is Hyperion, which borrows a lot from the Canterbury Tales. So far as it's less like a gritty sci-fi story and more of a like a quest like you would see in like Lord of the Rings.
Oh, okay.
Where it's a collection of people who've been called together to go on this journey.
Okay.
And as part of it, they have to face this weird time-displaced dimensional creature called the Shrike. Okay. And there's a lot of just really interesting world building. Each character has their own story, so the very beginning sort of sets up, what's going on. You're following one character, but then every other chapter is one of the 12. I think it's 12. Tweet at me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's 12. Telling their story, and so it's just like these wildly different short stories. Okay. From like different. There's one where it's like a detective and an AI are trying to solve the AI's murder. like the machine knows it's going to be killed. And so it's a story about like, you know, defining what it means to be alive and human and things like that. And then there's another story where a preacher gets exiled, goes to this planet, and then meets a bunch of like people who crash landed there like, generations ago, and trying to figure out what's, like they're very strange, and it turns out that they've been worshiping an organism that takes the form of a cross.
Okay.
And it's like it has a symbiotic relationship that if it latches onto you, it will keep you alive. It will just constantly regenerate your cells. You'll never die, but you can't go within a certain range, outside of a certain range of it, without just like extreme pain.
Okay, interesting.
And so, there's just a really varied and interesting collection of these stories, and they all tie into this planet. And that's another series. I read the full first book all the way through, but I've only read summaries for the follow-up, and then there was another, I think 1 or 2 novels afterward that were set in the future after that. There were some really interesting, and I thought super creative short stories.
Yeah, no, that sounds really interesting. I am so sorry. I am still trying to find this book because it was great, but I cannot find it. But basically, the premise of it is that it's these people out in space. They're miners through the asteroid belt, of course. This is when we've got like colonies out in like outer and past the asteroid belt. My brain was not working. I got you. And they find a ship that, I mean, it's gone. It's just been floating there for probably decades, if I remember correctly. And on this ship, they find something. And it's actually because all the ships are based off of, have an AI to do, like, the big stuff. And everybody, of course, for those kind of mining missions, most of them are running away from something. So it's a small crew of, like, 5 people. And they find this highly valuable thing. So they're told, hey, get it to Ceres. And then so they're trying to, but they're also being pursued by someone on a much better ship because they're on an old, like, space station.
Yeah.
It's a space station. So, like, you know, the circling tubes kind of thing that you see. And, like, they're trying to get this AI or to this program that had been developed and then lost to Ceres, to the AI, because Ceres is a science-based outpost. They're trying to get it there, and it's really interesting. There's some space battles, of course, because they're being pursued relentlessly.
Pursued by Space Bear.
And it's just, it's a really good series. There's like 3 books in it. It's a trilogy, if I remember correctly. It was a really great trilogy. I thought it was very well written because, I mean, for the most part, you have 5 characters. 6 if you count the AI. And they're trying to survive while hoping to get a payday, but they're at the end, they're just trying to exist, you know, trying to make it to Ceres so they can be done with their mission and, like, go back to their long-term mining expeditions of asteroids. So
what's funny is the beginning of that story sounded familiar to me. And I realized I can't remember. It's an alternate universe tale of Green Lantern.
Oh, okay.
DC published. I can't remember who wrote it or what world what part of the multiverse it takes place in. But it's the idea that Hal Jordan is he's an astronaut and he's working on the edge of the asteroid belt, and they come across a damaged spacecraft, and inside of it is the Green Lantern ring.
Oh, okay.
And so, like, as you're describing that, I'm like, this sounds really familiar. So, it just...
I feel like, in a way, that is also the start of a lot of things, considering...
Space Indiana Jones. Let's do it right now.
I mean, basically.
That's my pitch. Indiana Jones, he's wearing the hat on the outside of his...
Do you think we could convince Harrison Ford of this?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not.
But I mean, there's a lot of them. I just thought of something, and now my brain has it's gone away. You were talking about
Space Indiana Jones.
It was right before you said Space Indiana Jones, and my brain thought of something, and then you got distracted by Space Indiana Jones.
Was there anything outside of film, TV, and books that you think of when you think space?
Oh, yes, that's what it was. Game. Dead Space.
Yes.
Yes. No.
It's spooky. But I will say, I really love Dead Space for what it did as far as building the mechanics in a way that made sense around Isaac's job as an engineer.
Right.
And so, like, it would make sense that he would know how to, fix power couplings or... Right,
instead of just random skills, it's to someone who shouldn't know how to do that.
Like, that's this guy's job. It's just that he's got flesh abomination things attacking him while he's just trying to get some work done, guys.
Right. No.
He's trying to check on his girlfriend. Who's totally alive and fine.
Totally, with these space abominations. Yeah, no, that movie, though, I'm not gonna lie, that movie was terrifying.
Did they make it? Was it animated?
Yes.
Okay, I was like, I don't remember.
The first one was good. The second one was not. But the first one, like, it's kind of super terrifying.
Yeah.
And it was great.
Dead Space is it did for video games what Alien did for film.
It really did. It brought that back, but in a break that was really great and well done.
And it was original, it was different. And I really liked all of your weapons or tools that have been repurposed.
Right.
One for me is Mass Effect. If you haven't played the trilogy. Mm-hmm. The second one is the best, but I encourage a full playthrough, starting from 1 all the way to 3.
Well, yes, of course.
While they never give you... This is the one tiny nitpick with the series. You start off as Commander Shepard serving aboard a ship, and throughout the first story, you eventually get control over the ship, and so then you're flying around the galaxy. There's probably half a dozen different species that you can meet. The story isn't perfectly linear, so you can go off the beaten path and explore different planets and land on them. Some you can scan. There's all this really interesting lore with each planet. Planets that, like, you'll forget about, but it'll be like, why was it, like, who took the time to write this 3-paragraph lore dump when I scanned this planet?
Right.
And it was, like, super cool. And it just sort of scratched the itch of, like, I want my own ship, I want to be captain.
Right.
My only nitpick is that you never get promoted to captain. You save the entire universe in the first game. They don't promote you.
Oh my gosh.
You get to make some of, like, the most important choices as far as, like, what's the galactic leadership going to look like after everybody almost died? They give that decision to you, and you don't get any bonus or anything for it. In the second game, you die, and they're then brought back by a completely different organization. So you're not even supposed to be recognized as a commander anymore, because you're not with the original military, but everyone still calls you commander. It's like, you can't call me captain of this ship. I'm not a captain in that military, but at least can I be captain of the ship?
Right?
And then in the third game, you go back to working for that military, and you're still a commander.
Okay.
And even at the very end of the game, they're like, Commander Shepard was the best, and I was like, even posthumously, you couldn't give him the rank of captain. Him or her, because you play as a lady too, which I'm always supportive of.
Right.
But still, regardless, Shepard deserves to be captain. I'm saying it right now. Say it with me, gang. Shepard deserves to be captain. That was a great series. I wouldn't pick up Andromeda.
No?
No, Andromeda is a bad game. It's not a good game. Which is a shame because when the marketing came out for it, they had sort of written themselves into a corner with Mass Effect 3. They ended the trilogy, but they ended it on a multiple choice answer.
Okay.
So every player's choice was one of 3. Technically, they later patched it to be 4 options.
Okay.
In which most people hated the options. Because there was a series that was supposed to be built on the idea that all your choices you made over the course of the 3 games were going to matter.
Okay.
And it just wasn't feasible to have that all tie into a nice bow.
Right.
So instead they gave you 4 choices and everyone went, well, these choices suck. But I gotta give the writers credit because I can't imagine having to try to tie all hundreds of narrative threads into a satisfying ending.
I mean, that gives you endless, an insanely large amount of possibilities and routes. So to try and option a way to do that, and I mean, realistically, you'd have to come up with that same amount of options. So
in some way to make each of these tiny choices matter,
right?
And so there were a lot of drop plot threads. There was a lot of things that I did in previous saves that didn't really matter in the long run. It was just oh, cool, that character I saved in the first game. Here's a text file about him. Cool, great, thanks.
Right.
But the spin-off Andromeda had a really cool story, which was about settlers who were leaving the Milky Way galaxy before the 3rd game.
Okay.
And going into cryosleep, and then taking a super long journey to the next galaxy over, and it was going to be about settlers, and your job is, instead of being badass war hero Commander Shepard, you were going to play a Pathfinder. It was your whole job to go out and scout and find settlement locations and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, cool, this version of the game is going to lean more into the exploratory side than just straight up action hero the 2nd and then the 3rd game really nailed down. The problem is that game has a whole list of issues that was happening behind the scenes. There are other people who've made hour-long documentaries already about it. It is the tale of everything that went wrong with it is a legend that we're not going to touch on today. But it was not a great game, which broke my heart because I loved that franchise. And I was there. I put all my money on the fanciest edition of the game, and then it came out and it was just wow. We've been talking for probably too long about space and the different franchises we love in it, but we should talk about why do we love space. For me, it's just the boundless creativity.
I was gonna say that too. Yeah, there's just, because we haven't explored very much of it, there's so many options and so many things you can do with it. Oh, I just thought of another series. TV. It was The Expanse.
Oh, okay. I think I've heard of it.
You should watch it. It was good. Though that last season I was a little weird. It was very different. It was a different direction. So, I mean, I still enjoyed it. It was just a very different direction than the first couple of seasons. But basically, space plagues.
Okay.
That turn you into, it was basically space, it was glowy mushrooms that would then erupt out of your body and steal your energy.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was interesting. It was well done. At one point, there's an asteroid hurtling through space that changes directions and speeds. That was cool. But it has Thomas Jane from, he played Punisher in the movie.
Yes.
Yes, I really enjoy his work. He was in it, a bunch of other people, but he's the one that I can think of off the top of my head. He's a detective who's tasked with finding the missing daughter of some hoity-toity rich person on Earth.
Yeah, hoity-toity rich man.
And then you got this crew of an ice hauler and the ship gets blown up, and they think it's the Martians, because Earth and Mars. So Mars was a colony, and then they went for independence. They are a military state now. And you got Earth. So they're always fighting. And then you got the people of the Belt. Belters. Who are just, yes.
Keep their heads down.
Well, they're, you know, it's kind of like you got your militarists, you got your, like, well-off Earthers, and then you got the people in the Belt who are, like, they're just working. They're miners. They're working on...
the working class.
The working class, yeah. And they're just kind of... They're way out there, so they don't really give a hoot about whatever. And it's just... It plays on class dynamics like that. And it plays on... It plays on a lot of things, and it does it all very well. While you have this overshrouding mystery of... What is this goo stuff?
I thought you said goose stuff for a moment.
Oh, no, goo.
Oh my god, space geese.
But you've got you've got this goo that is just doing crazy things to people, and you've got a missing girl, and it's the way all the stories combine there towards the end. It's really well written. It was really great, and I enjoyed it a lot. So, if you haven't watched The Expanse, it is on Amazon. Go check it out.
Something to check out.
Yes, definitely. The 4th season is coming out next month, and technically this month, because of when this episode is airing. Yes. And I'm actually really excited because of the way it's going. And I'm excited to see where Amazon's going to take it, since they acquired it after Sci-Fi decided to drop it. Another one of those situations.
There's been a lot of those situations going on recently.
Yeah.
Where it'll get dropped, and then another network will swoop in and pick it up. Brooklyn Nine-Nine is the one I can think of off the top of my head.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I think Lucifer is going to be just a Netflix one now. It was a TV
final season,
but it was a TV one. But then Netflix finished it out or whatever, or they picked it up. But yeah, Amazon picked it up. I was really excited when I heard that, because I was really mad, even though I hadn't even watched the 3rd season. I was really mad when I heard that Sci-Fi was canceling it. So
that's how you know you care.
Yeah, it is how you know you care.
So,
anyways,
we're pretty much wrapping at the end of what should be this video here. So let's talk about, we got to end everything on a pitch. So what is something we haven't seen done at least a lot or well in sci-fi that we want to see more of in the world?
I feel like we could have more horror sci-fi. Like, we have a little bit of it, with, you've got the game and the animated movies of Dead Space. You've got Alien, but...
I would love to see more Alien.
I'd love to see more Alien, too. I mean, honestly, who wouldn't? Yeah,
those little shorts they released earlier in the year.
Those were amazing. I watched those. Those were so awesome.
Really hoping that those were going to be at the very end there. You'd be like, did you guys like those? Because if you did, we're making a movie.
Right?
I'd have been like, yes.
It doesn't even have to tie into anything, though. I would like to see more detail but I mean, we've already talked about this, but with the engineers and stuff, the newer stuff, but more about just fighting aliens sounds also super awesome.
We can catch up with what's Weyland Yutani been up to for 20 years.
Right.
How great would it have, Bill Paxton played Hudson. I can't remember the name.
Hicks.
Yes, but I can't remember the actor. It's gonna bug me so much. Please, someone.
Give me a moment. Let me.
He's also in Terminator. It's right on the tip of my tongue. It's just not.
Give me a moment. Let me find that for you, because this is also going to bug me. Let's see. Hicks was played... Michael Bain.
Yes.
If that's how you say his last name. If not, I am sorry.
I think it's Bain. But fantastic actor.
Very fantastic.
Let's get him some more work.
Heck yeah.
I recently listened to the Alien 3 Amazon Audible exclusive, where they got one of the first scripts before it went through the launching process for Alien 3.
Okay.
Which was super weird to listen to because it's there. They brought Lance Hendrickson, who played Bishop,
right,
and then a bunch of new people, to play characters, and so it would totally throw me off. I'd be like, "Oh yeah, Bishop," and Bishop's talking to somebody. I'm like, "I don't know who that is,"
but Bishop.
And it was a really bizarre and interesting script.
Okay,
and I think like. If they had gone with that one versus what we eventually got with Alien 3, I don't know if our franchise would have stuck around longer.
Really?
Yeah, it's one of those where like I listen to it, I'm like, this is interesting, but I don't know if it's better.
Okay.
It's really weird. It gets into sort of the biology of the aliens. It confirmed my personal theory, and I know a theory of a lot of fans, where it only takes one alien.
Right, yeah.
In order to breed a hive. In my mind, I was going off of the deleted scene from the original Alien.
Right, with
that shows it collecting all the organic material to form an egg.
The people.
Yeah. Turning the people into eggs, essentially. Instead, in Alien 3, the script had the alien sort of molting again.
Okay.
Sort of how it molts from the chest burster into the xenomorph. It would molt again into the queen.
Oh, okay.
But it still at least confirms a theory that, like, you drop one alien on a planet, if nobody kills it fast enough, you will have a hive.
I mean, yeah, that would definitely work if it molts from a drone or a warrior. Into a queen.
Warrior. Sorry. But, no, I definitely agree that would be cool. One of the things that I mentioned a moment ago, I was really disappointed by Mass Effect Andromeda because it had such an interesting story perspective. We've had so many space movies about aliens attacking us, our solar system and threat. It'd be really interesting to show a movie about humans exploring and going further into the galaxy than we've ever seen before, and to see what it would look like when a colony ship shows up in a system.
Right, what we would do.
Yeah, that's already inhabited, and then set it up like a political drama.
Right. No, that would be really, really interesting. Because, I mean...
You've got your boots on the ground, colony, Marines or whatever.
Right.
Dealing with the fact that this planet we picked out,
Which in some ways would be kind of pulling some of the elements of Stargate.
Yeah.
Because especially in the later seasons and when, with some of the more advanced planets that you'd come across in Stargate, you do get, you get their political tensions, but even then there were a couple episodes where you'd get the political tension of this new group of humans
coming in and sticking their noses in the middle or something.
Exactly. Especially so it kind of pulls that idea, and I like it.
Trip.
Right.
Yeah, where there's no going back. It's not like, the system's occupied, our bad, we'll go back home.
Right.
It's like, no, this was one way for us, we live here now.
No, that would be an interesting one.
So that's my pitch, but I really like the idea of bringing us back to some quality horror coming from the sci-fi genre. What do you guys think at home? This episode ran a little long. I hope you guys enjoy it. And this is Nate and
Cheyenne.
And we're signing off. Bye, guys.
Bye.
everybody, this is Nate again with Nonessential Media. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Before I go, I want to remind you about nonessentialmedia.com. It's our website. It's got all of our different information on it if you want to find out more about me and my friends and the shows we make. If you haven't checked them out yet, we've got Beach City Crows and Lifecast on there. They're both great podcasts from friends of mine, and occasionally I get to guest part on them, and they are hysterical. Please, while you're there, reach out to us. Let us know if you're enjoying the content, if there's anything that we can do to make it better. I know I'm constantly trying to find ways to improve the quality of the shows. My first time really getting into podcasting and probably shows, but I've so far really enjoyed doing it. And I can't wait to produce even greater content. So yeah, reach out to us, and we'll be seeing you guys next week.